I think we've just gone live. Hello and welcome to the WEBSTER Report, second edition. Today I was earlier speaking with Caroline Stevens, where we had quite a bit of technical difficulties. There was a bit of lagging, but we got through it. We got a decent interview. I think we're all bemused about what the hell is going on and how things have changed so much in just a period of a few months, and how accepting. A couple of guys I've got on the show tonight, that they're as bemused as everybody. We're all from a local community, and we just see what's the town that we grew up in is just decimated. It's been destroyed, and small businesses aren't coming back. I know for a few personal businesses myself that they've gone. Mortgage holidays are coming to an end. Bailiffs are set for this so-called reset that's coming. It's in dangerous times when they're passing legislation that they can enter people's houses on suspicion of something that they can't test for, that you may not have symptoms of. It's dangerous times. Anyway, guys, introduce yourselves, lads. I mean, and you've been on the show before, Jim, and they know a bit about the lobby Gobbler. So if you want to do a quick revision of where you started from and you fell into this, and how things have changed a little bit, and then we'll get Ray to, when the hell did his life fall to pieces and everybody start calling him a nutter?
Well, for me, where do you want me to start with COVID? We'll go with COVID. Right.
Yeah, wherever you want to, mate.
At the beginning of the year, I was bored and I wanted a new hobby, so I started making Leeds turned into Tory town. So I thought I was a bit pissed off about it. Even though I can understand why people voted, Tory, because they were going to get Brexit done. So I thought I'd make some videos about my local town and how it changes over the next 5 years while the Tories are in charge. And I made a couple, just for my own amusement, really, and for my friends. And within the 6 months of us becoming a Tory town, the world's gone mad. It's like, because of this virus. Now, I think it was when I first heard about this virus was in February, yeah? And because I watch a lot of world news, because I don't trust BBC, so I watch like RT, Al Jazeera. I watch a lot of things. I watch German TV.
Yeah.
So, and I was even about this COVID thing in China, and they were saying, now, they were very authoritarian in China, so you don't know if I'll take it, do you? But I saw this article where they were building this big, massive hospital, and I thought, Christ, what's this thing they're building? How bad is this thing if they're building an hospital for it? And, holding, I think it was a couple of thousand people or something, what they were going to build and then knock down after the virus is gone. And I'm thinking, there's not many people talking about this virus. I've been missing out on something here. Is it really bad? And I should worry about it. So I did a bit of looking into it, and it's just shut down China. It was all locked down. South Korea went into lockdown. And we were just all making jokes about it, making memes about it on Facebook and stuff. And even I was making memes about it in one of my videos. And then all of a sudden, it's like, biggest thing ever happened. We're all locked down. It's going to kill us all. Or, it's deadly. And I was scared at first about it, because I thought we weren't taking enough precautions. But now we've gone like the complete opposite way. Now, there's evidence showing that it's not as deadly as we first thought, in my opinion. Don't get me wrong, it's deadly for some people, but if you've got underlying illnesses, if you catch a bad flu, it can kill you. So I don't think...
Mate, 99% recovery rate. 99% recovery rate. They shut a 22 trillion economy down. Yeah, of course it's going to affect some people. This is what the shame of it is, with people running... You've got people barking at each other in Asda. A guy was in San Diego yesterday, Jim, in an open park, was maced by a woman wearing a mask. That's how stupid this world has gone. Maced because he wasn't wearing a mask. There's something not right here.
Well, so anyway, we started spreading, and we started hearing all these stories about Italy and how everybody's dying and it's getting really bad. And I was willing to go along with it at first. I thought, Christ, it could be really bad, this. And then you start seeing alternative views, and you start seeing experts saying, well, it's not as deadly as we first thought and stuff. But they kind of push them to one side now. I mean, the Tory government started off with it was, let's get herd immunity. It's just like a cold. And then they've gone the complete 180 now, and it's like, oh, it's really bad. You have to wear masks and all this, but their own rules don't tally up. You have to wear masks when I'm shopping, but you can go to the pub and have a drink with your mates. No, it doesn't make sense. It's like,
well, that seems a purpose to me, that it creates that cognitive dissonance. Remember that go to work, don't go to work, get on a bus, don't get on a bus. It's your mind bounces that much. You get to a point where somebody's just going to tell you to do something, and you'll mindlessly do it. It's training. It's like training fleas almost. They just put a lid on you for a little bit.
So, like I said, in my opinion, I went from being pretty worried about it and thinking we weren't taking it seriously enough to now thinking it's being overblown now. But they know it's not as deadly. But now they're using it for impose draconian rules and like play games with us. And like, in my opinion,
yeah,
because they always
Definitely.
never miss an opportunity to like impose new things on you, like passes. You can see what's coming, can't you? Digitalised money. They'll try and get rid of currency, and they'll try and have you all a pass just for you, so they know your health records. Obviously, So that's my opinion on it at the moment.
What about you, Ray? Where did you fall into this?
Right. Well, when it first started, I've got family who live in northern Italy. They've lived there for a long time, so I was sort of seeing it play out there. Now, at first, I'll be honest with you, just like Jimmy, it was like watching a fantasy, a film. It was just overpowering. It was scary. It was quite scary. And I was speaking to my relatives in Italy, and I decided, well before anybody went into lockdown, I spoke with my wife and I said, we're going to self-isolate because my wife will be classed as high risk. So we decided to self-isolate. But me being me, I've always looked at things in quite, a lot of depth. And I couldn't get my head around it. It just looked so scary. And then after about, 2 weeks, I thought, this doesn't seem right. When I started researching it, I thought it doesn't look right. No. However, I was uplifted quite a bit because I am 99% sure initially Boris Johnson was not taking us into any form of lockdown. I'm sure he was never going to do that initially. And I thought, fair play to Boris Johnson. I'm no fan of his, by the way, but I thought, fair play to him. He's not following the sheep. But as soon as then we implemented, as soon as the world had really implemented lockdown, I just thought, what are you doing? Are you serious? Because to me, I'm looking at big picture, and when you're taking a country into lockdown, that's massive. The effect of that, the big picture of that is huge. You're trashing your economy. That's how I saw it. We're trashing the economy, and I thought, for what? And the more I looked at the figures, and like you guys do, research and everything, I couldn't get my head around that at all. And it was just, it begged belief for me. So I looked at it and I asked myself one question. Are we doing this for the health of the nation or some other reason? And I quickly came to the conclusion it wasn't for the health of the nation. And I thought, well, what else can it be? What else are they doing? I thought, they're trashing the economy. Well, then you have to ask the question, why would you trash an economy? Because that's the only two reasons for me. It was either for the health of the nation or trash the economy. And I just thought, I just didn't believe it was for the health of the nation. Not looking at what I'd seen, and I'd been, like Hong Kong flu, which I saw in the 60s. We didn't even remember. We didn't even remember it. We didn't even remember the Hong Kong flu. We just got on with life. But everything was wrong. For example, I'm no medical expert, but I thought, if you wanted to deal with this, what would you do? You'd do the basics. You'd look after the old and vulnerable. You'd make sure they were well looked after. You'd make sure the people who were hospitalised well looked after. And then to me, everybody else get on with it and get immunity. Because I knew...
We did the exact opposite, didn't we? We did the exact opposite. We put...
Exactly. We did the exact opposite. So the old and
People
vulnerable for
dying-
me.
People who were
Sorry, say
dying
that
in
again.
I was saying people who were dying in hospital were taken out of where they needed to be for care because
Yeah.
they were dying and then put into old folks' homes. You've got death certificates that everything is being written up as COVID-19, no matter what you're dying from. You've got diagnosis, paid diagnosis, £13,000 for a diagnosis of COVID-19.
Yeah, well, I saw all this stuff, Paul. I saw all this stuff, but to me, I tried to take politics out of it, which I did. It wasn't a political thing to me, I'll be honest with you, because I'll tell you what, any government who'd have been in our country would have put everybody in lockdown. That I'm convinced of. Whether that be Jeremy Corbyn, whoever, he would definitely have done that, right?
Well,
So then I'm looking at it, and it didn't make sense because, like you just said, what would you do? You'd look after the old and vulnerable. You'd look after those in hospital. You wouldn't lock up the fit and healthy, because if you're trying to gain immunity, if that's what you're trying to do, which, until we get immunity, people can't be immune. You've put the fit and healthy out there, but we did opposite. We locked up the fit and healthy, and then we didn't look after the old and vulnerable.
No, we banged ourselves up, Ray.
Sorry?
We banged ourselves up on the
Well,
day
we banged ourselves up. Okay.
On the
we banged
guidelines,
ourselves up.
On the guidelines, they said if you can work from home, work from home. If you can't, go to work. And everybody didn't go to work. And from that, people have lost jobs, furloughed, small businesses. When these mortgage holidays come to the end of it, these bailiffs are going to start going for all these people's properties.
I honestly believe, Paul, that at the time, and even now, although people are having a bit of a change of mindset, they didn't realise the full implications of it. This is massive. You were closing your firm down. A massive hit on the economy. Think about it. I don't know. I don't want to be the prophet of doom, but how many people are going to be losing their jobs? I'm guessing a lot. A lot of people are going to be losing their jobs. And if they lock down again, to me, it's potato cakes. I mean that. If we get locked down again, because I know businesses were already gone. The
suicide rate is higher than COVID deaths.
Correct. Well, I looked at the death rate. I thought, why would you close an economy down? It doesn't make sense. Look after the old and vulnerable if they want help, because you should always have freedom of choice. But to me, they're the people you look after, not locking up fit and healthy people who can help gain immunity. You want them. I'm not being horrible. You want them to catch it. I think I've had it. I'll be honest with you. I remember in January I was really ill. I'm not saying I have had it, but I don't know. No, what I'm saying, you want fit and healthy people get it. I don't mean that nasty. I'm not saying it's impossible for them to die, but I'll tell you what, if you're looking at, say, I don't know, under 60 with no underlying health conditions, I bet you'd have to dig pretty deep. Who's died?
I think you're right.
You'd have to dig pretty deep.
I also agree with you about Boris Johnson. He definitely, at the beginning, he didn't want to go into lockdown. No, that's because
that's right.
I think I look at everything from a kind of economic, Marxist, well, not Marxist, I've never even bloody read any Marxist theory, but I look at it from the socialist perspective, as I know the economy works and who's gaining out of the economy, So, Boris Johnson, he didn't want to shut the economy down because he's got business friends who don't want everything shut down. They'll lose money, you know what I mean? Even though big corporations are probably gaining, and a lot of small, medium-sized businesses will lose out, won't they? So, I don't think he wanted to shut it down, but then as soon as all the other countries around Europe and everything shut down, that was it. Oh, I better shut down. I don't want to be the only man who doesn't shut down. And then if it's as bad as we think it might be, and we get it really bad, I'll get crucified. So I'm going to copy everybody else and say, everybody else is shut down, so we'll have to shut down because that's what everybody's doing. And I think he just followed the herd himself. Correct.
Just to expand on that a little bit, Jimmy, because I think it's really important. What you just said then is absolutely true. But on top of that, you've got to be a very, very brave man. You've got to be a brave man to go against. Can you imagine the guy in Sweden? Let's take the guy in Sweden, the epidemiologist in Sweden. He has to have bodyguards. He's got personal bodyguards. I know he has, right? Because of what he did. So everywhere he goes, he has to have personal bodyguards with him. Because that's how they've got into
the people. to the people listening, Ray, just explain what he did, because some people may not know.
Well, the Swedish epidemiologist, he decided to go for a sort of herd immunity. I think they carried on with social distancing. I think they had some things in place, but they certainly didn't shut the economy down. They have a massive care home facilities in Sweden, and he admitted we dropped the ball. We made a big mistake in the care homes, and that's where the vast majority of deaths have happened, right? So he admitted to that. But the rest of his policy, he was working on herd immunity, and that's what he did. But because the rest of the world weren't doing that, or damn near the rest of the world, he was getting a lot of negative press. So the population, some of the population in Sweden felt he was doing a really bad thing, and he was getting a lot of hassle. So he had to get personal bodyguards. So when he was going to a meeting or anything, he had to have bodyguards with him. Because it would take a very brave politician, when you see the world closing down, and there's fear, anxiety, which is what they want, of course, they've got all that going. Now, if you're not really brave and you get an earache from your advisors, because Boris Johnson's not calling the shots, he's making the final decision, somebody else is calling those shots, what they say, the science, we're going with the science, they're telling him what to do. Then if somebody then says, no, I'm not doing what scientists have told me, our scientists have told me, I'm going to do something else, that's going to take a very brave person. That's what I think. That's my take on it.
And I also come from that perspective where I'd rather be safer than sorry up to a point, but I think we've gone beyond that stage now. I think it's pretty obvious to me personally that it isn't as bad as we thought it was. But we seem to be bringing in stupid rules now, which they should. If we was going to wear masks, we should have been wearing masks in March when it first started kicking off, shouldn't we, for a month or so and get it done with. And now they're bringing it in now. I can't see any real reason why they're bringing it in now.
I'll be honest with you, Jimmy, on that front. I'm going to get a lot of earache for saying this, but I get earache all the time, so I'm not. But right, people have been talking all the time. I hear them about maths, and right, I'm not. It's not medical. It's no use talking about different grades of maths and all that, because I am positive that's not been brought in for a medical reason. Oh shoot! I'm positive that's not been. I'm positive that's not been brought in for a medical reason.
Yeah.
I think that's been brought in for a psychological reason. That's my take.
If you look at it this way, right, you look at the dots that start to, and the faces that you start to see popping up here. You've got a company called Pirbright who allegedly leaked a foot and mouth in 2009, where that epidemic never happened, yet we slaughtered thousands of cattle just in case. That Pirbright firm now has a patent for a SARS-CoV-2 coronavirus from 2015. Bill Gates funds Pirbright. Bill Gates funds the World Health Organization, who are pushing Bill Gates' mandatory vaccine. This is how serious this is getting, because he's going to bring a digital chip that's going to be cashless. These people are not doing it for the goodness of your health. The death figures have fudged, and people, it's so easy. I mean, look at our local social sites. The bickering and arguments over, oh, this puppet once said this, and oh, this puppet. It's all politics that we agree. Two wings of the same bird. The politics are dead. People have got to think there's more danger here.
Just take away for a second, Paul. Just take away. I know what you're saying, because I've looked into all them things, obviously, vaccines and all the rest of it. But let's just take that out of picture for a minute. Let's just go down the route Jimmy were talking about. Right. So let's forget any conspiracy or whatever you want to call them, or as I call it, a difference of opinion. Okay, let's just wake away from that for a second. Now, you think about this just on a logical thing of what's actually happening. All the economy is collapsing. Companies are falling down. Small businesses are going. Medium-sized businesses are going. Some bigger companies are going. Now, who can step in then? Corporations can step in. They can sweep up the market. They can get control. They can get monopolies. So forget even the conspiracy theory. I'm just going off what I'm seeing now, what's actually happening. I don't even have to look at
That'd be Marx's theory, wouldn't it? Marx's theory. I think endgame in Marx's theory is that corporations and multinationals will take over everything, and then it's up to the workers to take the means of production from them, innit? Because it's already united. Then
they then become the state. They then become the state.
Well, they're kind of state-run anyway. Half these corporations.
They are, Jimmy. I think what I'm saying now, they are for sure. But in a bit, where it's going, if this carries on, this is my mind, people, oh, you're getting carried away, but this is how I say it. If this carries on, they won't be hiding anymore. They'll come out because they won't be bothered, because they'll control everything. Why would they be bothered about people knowing? They'll have everything. What can you do about it?
Well, they already.
You can get to a stage where you can't do nothing about it.
That's a dangerous position we find ourselves in. They've got that much put in place now. All they need is the right type of components, the right situation. You know, we've got knifings. We've gone back to race wars where everything's about racism and white privilege and all that, and that didn't work. Now we're back to COVID and masks, and people will. I don't know what to say to people anymore. You know, it's so easy to fool somebody rather than show them that there's a really good chance you've been fooled here, you've been hoodwinked. Really good chance of it, and people just aren't until they come and knock on your door.
I mean, I could go on forever about stuff like that, but I think, like Jimmy said about you know, corporations. Once you get to a certain level with that, they have got control. They become the state. Who else have you got? Who will you turn to?
It's corporatism. That's what the term is. Corporatism.
Yeah.
It's fascism, but it's basically fascism.
It's fascism. You could say it. You could say it's Marxism, because any form, to me, if you've got like I don't want to say these words, but a tyranny running you, whether that's Marxism, anything extreme right, extreme left, it's same to me.
Marxism is just an economic theory. Everything.
Correct.
It's the other people who take the economic theory and come up with how they would create the world after capitalism falls. All Marxist theory kind of explains is how capitalism works and how the end game of capitalism, how it'll end up. I mean, I think it was Lenin in 1920s era one called imperialism, and he explains how all corporations are taking over everything, and then these corporations, because they become multinational, they start competing with other countries and using the country's armies as their like land forces for fighting battles for resources and things. And that's all in Marx's theory, explaining all this.
Yeah. So, I mean, there's a difference between Marxist theory and Marxist practice. You know, something like Chairman Mao type Marxism and stuff like that. It's pretty damn serious, isn't it?
But then you get your Marxists, and then your anarchists, because your anarchists, they argued at the time when all these theories were coming about that Marx was wrong, because where Marx says the workers should take control of the state, anarchists argue that whoever controls the state will become corrupt. So there shouldn't be a state. That's what the whole anarchist theory.
Yeah.
As soon as you have a state, whoever controls the state controls you, kind of thing. So yeah, if I'm honest with you, I tend towards. I'm borderline anarchist, if I'm honest, because I'd want workers to own the means of production, not be told what to do. They'd own it as a cooperative, you know what I mean? That would be my ideal world.
I'll tell you now, fellas, I have no problem whatsoever with capitalism. None. I've no problem with it. But the world we're living in now, to me, is not capitalism. This is beyond that. It's capitalism on steroids. You know, you've got these massive, massive corporations. I think a capitalist more like, you know, the guy who has a factory with a couple of hundred people in or whatever, not multinationals everywhere. You know, where you're not monopolies. Once you start monopolizing things, you're in trouble. All the competition's blown away. And when that competition's gone, it don't come back. Because you were controlling things. You were controlling things. And that's what I'm afraid of, because if this carries on, let's suppose they lock us down again. Let's suppose that happened. There's 9 million people furloughed at the moment, I think. Now, I don't know how many percentage of them are going to lose their jobs, but I've got a feeling it's going to be quite a lot.
I'd say at least 25%.
Well, that's a lot of people.
Well,
that's a lot of people.
My own personal circumstances, I went from being a keyword, this is funny, my job. I like my job where I work because it's convenient, it's local. I've worked there all my life. I was hoping to get through my life just plodding along in the same job in the local town. Like, you know, I know this is hard to come by these days, but I was hoping. I got to my 50s. I've been there since I left school. And we were suddenly key workers because we were printing manuals for gas masks and stuff. And they were like getting orders from all over the world for these gas masks. So we was for work, like, we were busy doing these gas masks, but as we was doing them, all our other customers were shutting down and, you know, not bringing no work in. So it was all right for the first 6 weeks or something. And then once the initial rush went out, we've been furloughed. And I don't think we're coming back, if I'm honest. I'll be honest with you. I honestly think I'm just waiting until the government pulls the plug on the furlough scheme, and then I'll be on the door. And
the worst out of work position for me was in the late 80s, and there were over 3 million, just over 3 million, and that was pretty bad. That was pretty bad. But this, I feel it's on another level altogether. I really do. Because if now you've already got people out of work already, let's suppose 25% of that 9 million get made redundant on top of that. Then there'll be some firms keep going, try and still make it work. But come the end of the year, they might not be in business because they can't keep it going. If in between another lockdown gets introduced,
I don't think he'd have no fun putting another lockdown in place, if I'm honest.
Well, I'll tell you what, you're saying that. Well, that's what I'm waiting to see, because if he doesn't, that will give me a great hope. Because he said by Christmas, now whether this is a psychological move or what, I don't know. But he said by Christmas he was looking for some form of normality, and I thought, well, fair play to you. But then when I see Spain getting all this today with Spain, I thought, that's typical. They've only just got bloody planes up into the air again, and now they're grounded again. So nothing would surprise me, Jimmy. Nothing surprises me. I don't want to be negative about that, but that's what I feel.
I've seen some teenagers interviewing other teenagers on the campus in America, and they were asking them, did they think socialism was a good idea? And they had all the right rhetoric and all the sound bites and correct. And then they went, can you tell us what socialism is?
Yeah.
And that was it. It was the end of the conversation. They knew what sound bites and that it was against capitalism, and capitalism hasn't done us any favors, blah, blah, blah. But, you know...
Don't get me wrong here, guys. I think this is really important. I'm sure you fellas feel the same way, but as regards the health of people, that's a priority to me. Saving lives is a massive priority to me. And I'd be the first one to go along with it. Well, I isolated myself from my life. I'd do that every time. I've done loads of work helping people. It's not about economy. It's about doing the right thing. And this, to me, is no way, in my mind, the right thing. Now, if they don't lock down again, fair enough. It'll still be bad enough. Don't forget, Jimmy, Paul, now you're going to have benefits going out all the time on top of all this, and nothing coming into the pot. Everything's coming out of the pot, nothing's coming in. That's how it's going to be if people go to work.
Well, that's the money laundering issue, because we'll get left with all those pieces of paper, all the debts, and all the equity. It's called a non-hostile takeover.
That's right. They'll get the proper equity.
But
that's what they did with Greece.
Do you guys not think that? I honestly think, this is my little conspiracy theory here. I think the capitalist system is collapsing. Yeah, I think it's collapsing because it's all based on, I think the capitalist system is collapsing because it's all based on debt, and the debt burden is so big now, it's never going to be paid back. And that's why they keep throwing money at banks. They keep creating money out of nothing and giving it to banks for cover the holes that are appealing in all this debt was collapsing. And because it's endgame of capitalism, in my opinion, the elites are realising that they still want the power. So how do we get out of this? And I mean, for example, it's all about dividing the masses, making them fight amongst one another instead of fighting the people at the top. Black Lives Matter is a perfect example.
Yeah,
I agree totally with that kind of thinking behind it. I mean, black people in America get treated like shit by police, don't they? Yeah, I agree with that. And there's racism in our country. I'm not saying there's not. There's loads of dickheads. I know dickheads myself are a racist for no real reason. So I know there's problems with it. But this Black Lives Matter thing, as soon as corporations start getting involved in your movement, you have to start questioning the movement.
Exactly.
Why would corporations want to get involved in that movement?
Exactly.
because they want workers, black and white, fighting one another instead of arguing about wage rises. That's what it's all about.
Exactly.
You know that there's a higher percentage of whites killed by American police than blacks.
I don't give a crap, mate. I'm just about the fact that corporations are getting involved.
Yes, I'm same as
They
Jimmy.
want to divide us.
Yeah.
They want us fighting black versus white instead of looking at the people at top who are watching it all happen.
All of a sudden, what I'd say, Jimmy, and this is why to me it's all connected. I know some people don't agree with that, but to me all this is connected. This virus, Black Lives Matter, Marxism, it's all connected. Because when you look behind it all, like you've just said, Jimmy, you look who's supporting these groups, and you go, why are they supporting them? It doesn't make sense. But yes, it does if you want anarchy. It doesn't make sense. When I said to you, Jimmy, I remember having a conversation about Marxism, and I was saying they support it because, you know, I'm not getting, but Marxist groups have actually been supporting Black Lives Matter. And American Democrats are supporting them. Why are American Democrats supporting Marxism? Only in name. Only in name.
Antifa is the other arm of it. Antifa is the other arm of it. Antifa, anti-fascists, they're the other
Someone
half
made a
of
comment
it.
then about National Socialism, about it being anti-corporation. Was it bollocks? Fascism is based on corporations running everything. So don't give me that crap. That is fucking rubbish. Honestly.
But I just feel now, I don't listen to politics now, I'll be honest with you, because they're not calling shots. World Health Organization are calling shots. And then that goes to national health, our government, our media, and that's it.
Well, Bill Gates, again, you see Bill Gates popping up there and there. You've got China funding 30 million to the World Health Organization. You've got Fauci funneling 3.7 million to the Wuhan labs in 2015. This is a twisted web. It's a twisted web that's been
but even that, this is where we go off, not on a tangent, but like that World Health Organization. I started looking at that Tedros, and I'm like, he was quite a real extreme Marxist army in Congo. And I thought, what's he doing in that position?
Well, do you not think?
And he's Bill Gates' mouthpiece, isn't he? He's Bill Gates' mouthpiece. That's how I see him.
Yeah.
Do you not think some of these rich people might have read Marx's theory and thought, well, we're the capitalists at the top, we better make sure we're controlling it all? You know what I mean? If they know it all ends up being corporations controlling everything, they'll
basically, Jimmy, to me, Black Lives Matter, Marxist groups are being used. They're being conned. It's as simple as that.
Definitely.
It's all controlled through the monetary system. It's the monetary system, the Bank of International Settlements. That's why they need this one world currency. We're at war with the countries that we don't have that banking system in. It is a simple corporate takeover of the world with impinging, obviously, legislation that's very invasive.
I'll tell you what, fellas, I don't know what to say in a way, because I know I've been saying a lot, but I mean, what are people waiting for? What are they expecting to happen? Are they expecting somebody coming up on a white horse and saving us, a knight in shining armor saving us? What?
Yes, they are.
People said to me, just roll with it, see what happens. And I said, where are you rolling to? Where are we rolling to? Who's going to change your mind? I'm waiting for Boris Johnson. Just stand up. I'd love this. This is where my ultimate thing. It's not going to happen. Boris Johnson standing up and saying, listen, guys, I'm really sorry. We've really screwed up here. Let's say we've been conned. Let's start from fresh. That's what I like. I know that's not going to happen. But
see, I'd say he's done a cracking job. He's done the job. He's what he was there for. I'd say he's done exactly what he was there for. This is
I don't think he knew him.
I don't know.
I don't even think, Jimmy, in the Paul, I don't think in the beginning, he looked to me bewildered, if I'm being honest. I don't think he was part of any part of it. I really don't. I don't know if he is now or not, but in the beginning, he was not part of what was happening. I don't believe he was, because he looked bewildered. He didn't know if he was coming or going. And he's been listening to the science. Where does that science come from?
Well, the bollocks, that's where it comes
It's
from.
everything's infiltrated, isn't it? Everything's bloody infiltrated.
Well,
So you can't trust any bodies properly or anything.
well, you could argue.
That's why you have to ask questions.
As soon as money's
Yeah.
involved, right? As soon as money's involved, people might start to become corrupt and they do things because they can make money out of it. Now, a vaccine would be a prime example. You could push this thing as though it's really deadly, even though it's not, just to make us all have a vaccine that somebody's making money off. Like, you know, Bill Gates or whatever. Because these pharmaceutical companies, they try and push pills down your throat because they make money off it. That's how they make money. If everybody was healthy, they'd go bust.
Exactly. There's that many things it could be. That's why I don't think you should sometimes look at all different things and just look at like basic stuff. What's happening? Firms are collapsing. Why are we sending the economy down shoot? Why would you do that? Why would somebody do that? Well, bigger companies can come in and take over and monopolise. Eventually, if we went into lockdown again, they don't give a shit then about you. All they're bothered about, how much can we get? If you're suffering, they're not bothered. They don't give a shit. So they can have all these monopolies. So to me, that alone is like massive.
I'll ask you something. You posted a video the other day on Lead Politics about what BBC had put out, explaining about how conspiracy theories are going up and how there's thousands of people now believe this mad conspiracy theory that there's a paedophile ring of cultists running the world. I thought to myself, no wonder we think this, because all these elites are hanging around all the time on the little islands with trafficking kids. It's coming out now. Why would we not start thinking they're all dogs?
Exactly. Jimmy Savile, you know, all this sort of stuff.
It walks like a duck, quacks like a duck.
Honestly,
anyway, Jim, we've done just over half an hour already, mate, and we've still have we. I think we've covered COVID-19, but we could keep going on it forever. You know, where do you want to take us with this now? Because, like I said, I join a lot of dots from my point of view. I'm happy for people to disagree. You know, the factor is we've got to ask questions. I haven't got all the answers. I've just got the questions, mate. So, what route do you want to take us down?
I'll give you a question, right? I think this is my version of how I think the world works. There's like neoliberalism is an economic system. It's like capitalism on steroids. It's globalist because they can ship the money all around the world. All the banking systems interconnected. They have all the favourite candidates around the world who they want to get in power, and they'll try and push agendas and stuff like that. It's mainly led by America, let's be honest. The head of the capitalist snake, or whatever you call it, in my opinion. And then you have some outsiders coming in, like in England, in the UK, we had Corbyn. He was the outsider in the UK. In America, they had Trump. Now, they're both complete opposite ends of the spectrum, but they're both hated by the establishment because Corbyn's hated more than Trump. Trump, they begrudgingly tolerate him more than Bernie Sanders, because Bernie Sanders was an outsider as well, and he was too left. I mean, they could put up with somebody who they regard as a racist bigot or whatever, as long as he's not stopping their money flow coming in. They begrudgingly accept him, but they don't want him. They would rather have their own puppet like Biden. And also, I think
he's a witty bastard. He's a witty bastard, though, Trump. I can't say anybody who says China, I have to go China, no matter what now, every time I hear it.
What is with Trump, why they don't like him as well, is because he has nationalist tendencies, and they don't like nationalism, because nationalism, they're putting any kind of borders up, hinders the movement of workers across borders where they get cheap labour. It hinders capitalism going around the world where they can shut up your factory in England and ship your job to China or India. They don't like anybody putting up borders and stuff like that. And Trump let's be honest, is a nationalist. And I might not like his politics. I might not like his treatment of women in past or anything. I think he's a dickhead, if I'm honest, a big old dickhead. But the establishment hate him. And I can see that, even though I don't like him, I can see he's hated by the establishment and they'd love to get rid of him. Now, but they will tolerate him because he won't really put a spanner in the works of the system, how it works. But he might hinder it, but he won't destroy it. Now, Corbyn, on the other hand, he's a proper old school leftist he'd put up tariffs and things like that for protect jobs, but he'll accept immigrants. But anyway, they don't like him because he'll throw a spanner in the works of their globalised capitalist system. He was always anti-EU. That's one thing what I really annoyed about Corbyn, when he didn't stick to his stance on the EU, and he got badgered into going the second referendum box. If he'd have stuck with pulling us out of EU, because he was always against EU, he always knew what it was, a neoliberal construct for corporations to control. So he wanted to get us out of that. So they call him like a little England. If a right winger does it, they call you little Englander, don't they? And if a left winger wants to do it, they call you an idiot in policies about rude country. But
that's the only reason we went Tory, Jimmy.
What?
It's the only reason we went Tory, because Boris Johnson said we'll get it. We're leaving the EU.
Oh yeah,
that's
I know.
They lost it on.
I agree with you, mate. But with Corbyn, no, he's out, but they're still desecrating his corpse, so to speak. So why they still got this vendetta against Corbyn? And I'll tell you why. Because they want to make an example of him. It's like a mafia boss taking out some bloke who they've got, and they beat him with a baseball bat, and they're smashing his head and watching. This is what happens to you if you go against the grain, if you try and disrupt the thing, it will destroy you. So they've not only got him out of power, they're just trying to destroy him as a man now. So nobody will ever dare to go that way again, in my opinion.
I think everything you said, Jimmy, I agree with 100%. Everything what you've been talking about. However, I think they want Trump out. I know what you're saying. You say, well,
I agree with you. They want him out, but
they want him out, definitely.
Ray, if it came to a choice between Trump on one side and Bernie Sanders on the other, they'll have Trump before Bernie Sanders. Of course,
they'll go for Trump.
They'll definitely want Trump out. They don't hate Trump. They do it.
And do you know what else I think will happen soon? They'll want Boris Johnson out too. Why? Because he's trying to get out of the European Union. Right? Same reason.
They want Keir Starmer. They think Keir
Starmer.
Yeah, not Boris.
That's right.
I agree with you. That's why I'll never vote Labour again.
When you're talking about Jeremy Corbyn, I don't agree with you on that bit, Jimmy. Everything you said about him's correct, but the only bit I don't agree on is I don't think they try to make an example now. I think it's all just a bloody distraction because it's all irrelevant. It's irrelevant now. It's finished. Jeremy Corbyn's not coming to power. He's done. We know, anybody in the right mind knows, or they should do, a strong socialist is not going to come to power, just like you said in America. Bernie Sanders weren't even that, he weren't that left wing really, but for America, that was like, whoa, they can't handle that. So they'd rather have Trump. But they want him out, just like I think they will want Boris Johnson out. That's why I think Dominic Cummings got all that bad press. They want him out. That's what I think. Well, and I would rather Boris Johnson. I don't like Boris Johnson, guys. I tell you, I don't like him, but I want him to stay in power.
He was
because
Boris Johnson.
If they're trying to get him out, Jimmy, if they're trying to get him out, it's for a reason, and you have to ask what that reason is. If establishment don't like him, I like him. That's how I see it.
I don't
not like him, but
they have to have some likable things, don't they, about him? But another thing about Corbyn, right? About destroying Corbyn, it's not just about the capitalist angle. It's also in support of Palestinians, basically, because they want to make sure. Because what they've done now, Zionists, they'll call you holy anti-Semitic because you mentioned Zionists. They fucking piss me off, I tell you. Because let's be honest, Zionism is a political ideology. That's all it is, a political ideology that says Jews should have their own homeland. Now, if anybody else in the world, I'm not into all this nationalism, if I'm honest. Up to a point, I'm very small nationalist, yeah. But hardcore Zionists, they want to get rid of all Palestinians. They want them out. They want their own land for just Jews, and they don't even believe in religion, half of them. They're atheists. They're nationalists.
I'll be honest with you, Jimmy. I lived over there for about a year. I lived on the border there, and I worked on a Palestinian refugee camp. I've spoke to Israelis. I've IDF members. I've even had IDF members come here, to be honest with you. And it's not as simple as it's very, very. I've met some nice Israelis. I've met some nice, and there's good and bad. It's not a simple thing.
I don't tell all Israelis. I know for a fact that there's lots of Israelis in Israeli Jews who support Palestinian cause. You know, left wing Jews. It's the right wing Jews. It's Zionism is a right wing ideology. It's like a Jewish version of fascism, if I'm honest, at the core of it. Because if you look at all the founding fathers, they always say it's just giving Jews the homeland, a safe homeland. Well, I can understand why Jews won't be safe. They've been persecuted throughout history. But, if you're going to take some land where somebody else has lived for hundreds of years, they're not going to be happy. Would you be happy if somebody just came in and said, sorry, these lads have been persecuted? All right, for example, these gypsies keep getting persecuted, so we're going to give them your house. You'll have to move out. You're not going to.
I'll tell you what, the world's most honest, brave politician now they were put in power, they still have hell of a job on trying to sort out where we are. There's so much stuff, there's so much stuff. And I think it's a matter of just looking first at basics and thinking, what's happening here? And that has to be focused on, for me anyway. That you've got to get your own house in order first. There's that much stuff happening here now. That needs to be, to me, a priority.
That's a major issue, isn't it? If you look at Lee, it's absolutely destroyed. It went from quite a wealthy mill and pit town to where people would live here and then travel into work in other places. Yeah. And nobody works here, and all that business is we've disemboweled the economy. So if we don't have anywhere to, people can only get jobs stacking shelves because we don't make anything. We don't have apprenticeships anymore. To be fair, Paul, that's been going on for many, many years. I mean, I worked in Lee, and you've got David, Brown, Sutler, Speakman, there were loads of places. But engineering and all the manufacturing base had just dropped dramatically anyway. It's just that we're going anyway. But what I'm saying now, even smaller businesses, even social things for leisure, bars, restaurants, cafes, people are saying, well, it'll be okay again when it reopens. I'm thinking, what makes you think that's going to reopen? Seriously. And who's going to have the balls to reopen it? Because I wouldn't. I've run businesses. There's no way now I would open a business. I'd be shit scared of being closed down. Yeah. Like that. Done. And that's what's happened. I know personally 2 people who've lost their businesses already. And that's just people I know.
If you could just roll back 6 months and you thought at the start of the year, we were just going into a new decade, a new government. Yeah. We're going to get Brexit done. And you think how it's all changed since then? It's madness, isn't it?
Yeah.
It's just
absolutely. It
I mean, like Roy said, I've given up on politics really at the moment. I've kind of given up on it because I know who's in control. It's not all us workers that are not in control. People are controlling
the Labour
Party now. It's all, neoliberals are controlling the Labour Party, and they're losing control of Tories a bit. That's why they don't like Boris Johnson, because he's too right wing for him, if I'm honest. I think too nationalistic again. They don't like that. Yeah. They'd rather stay in Europe and stuff, if I'm honest.
Exactly that. And that's what I thought. So to me, if they get rid of him, that to me is a real negative, because they're getting rid of him because he's not suiting their requirements. And if he's not suiting their requirements, I want him in. I want him in.
I mean,
that's how I see it now.
I must admit, I am morbidly curious to see how we're going to solve what's going to happen in the next 6 months after when they lift all these COVID things and it's all over and done with, where we stand with the economy. I think it's going to be collapse, mate. I really do, like you said. And the big thing
the question is, Jimmy,
what happens next? What does Boris Johnson do then? Is he going to print loads of money and start spending it into the economy, building stuff and giving us all jobs? Or is he going to just let everything go bust and like rich corporations just buy everything out and, everybody works for a corporation? I don't know.
Well, I'll be honest with you.
If he allows the Bank of England to keep printing the currency, our money supply, and don't put it through our treasury, nothing will change. It's that private company. If we wanted to invest in our own country, we could do it, but there's no intention of that. This is just that. This was always going to happen. This is the corporate takeover of everything the best they can, and they're going to fight and bomb the other things that they don't want that.
What are your views, guys, on, like we talk about how money's created, and it's created as a debt when you take out loans and stuff. Money creation, it's all based on debt, yeah? And that's not a stable system, in my opinion. But a lot of people are arguing we should go back to a gold standard. What are your opinions on a gold standard? I've got my own views, but I'll let you say yours first, and I'll explain mine why.
I'm going to step out. I'm going to step out of this one, Paul, because I'll tell you why. I don't know enough about it. The only thing I see in banking, what jumps out at me a mile, is when somebody goes for, say, a mortgage. I've never understood that. They go for a mortgage. They'll say, right, how much do you want to borrow? I want to borrow £100,000. Okay. How much is your house? I don't know, 150,000. Okay, can we have your deeds? There you go. And then they put 100 grand in your bank. Right, to me, that money,
computer.
yeah, that money doesn't exist. Why? No. Because they don't need it. They don't need it. Because if that person can't pay, they just go, right, thank you, we've got your house, to sell it. They don't lose anything.
Yeah, I agree. Yeah,
well, it's because they don't lend money, Ray. Banks don't lend money. They facilitate credit. They facilitate credit. So they get access to your credit account, because if you remember, when you go in, you sign an agreement, don't date it, and then they leave, and then they come back with their other agreement for terms and conditions. Well, you've just given power of attorney for the bank to act as Ray Mazey. So they can check your credit account, and then they loan that money to you. So what you're basically doing is the debtor is paying the creditor, and you're both parties. But the biggest thing for me, Ray, is this, like the PPI that you've had on the loans and all that kind of caper. There's an insurance policy in the mortgage agreement. They must take it out under the European Parliamentary directives. That means that every house that's been foreclosed on, the mortgage has been paid off, and the banks are still taking people's property. This is where the fraud's being committed. Now, going back to the gold, Jim, it depends. See, if we went back to gold standard, we haven't got any gold in public vaults. We haven't got any. It's all gone. So who's ever owned the gold would be the backers of our currency, which tends to make you think that he's going to run our country as a business. And if it's all based on paper, we're just going to go into slavery, whichever way.
This is my views on a gold standard, yeah. We was on a gold standard at one time until America printed so much money to fund the Vietnam War that they kind of decoupled themselves from the gold standard, because they printed too many IOUs for how much gold they had, and they knew they could never pay it back, and people started claiming the gold. So they said, nope, we're not giving you gold. Money's just going to be a floating currency now. So that's what happened with currencies. And then basically they tied it to oil, because the petrodollar. So because all the world trades in oil, it still had a significant value in that sense. So everybody needs dollars. You need dollars to trade on the global oil exchanges, don't you? Now, any country that tries to decouple themselves from that system seems to get destroyed. Iraq, Saddam Hussein decided he was going to create his own kind of thing and break away from it. Break away from using the dollar. He said he was going to start trading in euros. He went. Gaddafi talked about going to a gold dinar currency based on gold. He went. Iran's trading in rubles and what's the Chinese currency now? I can't remember. It's not yen, is it? I don't know. I can't remember the Chinese currency off the top of my head. But they're trading in the Chinese currency. They're basically cutting out the dollar, and they're on the hit list. They're still gunning for Iran. And basically, it's just like
Syria, the same.
Bits of paper. But the thing is, with the gold standard, you're not telling me these bankers, if they know the system, they're clever people, they're running the bloody system, they know when it's overloading and how it might collapse. You're not telling me they're not putting safeguards in place now, already buying up gold. So the same people who own all the bits of paper at the moment, and who are creating all this money out of nothing, they'll just be buying cut gold now and getting ready for a collapse, just in case it all collapses. And if we go back to a gold standard, it's the same people running the system, they're just using gold now instead of... And then we'll still go back to a paper system based on gold. So...
Well, Jimmy, what happened with all...
You don't need gold in the system.
Look at all the advertisements for cash for gold. Take all your gold into these shops and we'll give you cash. Well, they're taking real wealth and leaving you with pieces of paper that promissory notes, which is debt. So you were spot on. It's a debt-based economy. Do you know what? If you all realise that you actually work for nothing and the system works based on those promises, if you all just went about your business and did that, everything would work, because we would all work for nothing. But then you start people talking about, well, that's a utopian society and people can't live like that. Well, people live like that, but when you've got social engineering being bred into societies where you've got division left, right, and centre, we're dividing on everything from religion to colour to creed. You know, we've said many a time, Jimmy, if it doesn't matter what colour creed you are, if you're a dick, you're a dick.
Yeah.
You know, we've just got to grow up with some of the thinking. We've got to be able to ask questions. I've seen on the local social sites where people get shouted down based on people's beliefs, and they have no knowledge of the subject that they're trying to comment on. And it's like, is this the best that you've got? Is this what Lee has got to look forward to? Are you a representative of that? Because I know good people. I know people who are councillors and that who have, you know, they're trying to make local changes, but they all agree that if they want to climb the ladder, as in up to the council and then maybe Parliament, you're going to toe the line. Nothing's going to change. This is what the system tells us. It's what the judiciary tells us. It's what the banks tell us. And that's got to collapse.
The reason I kind of give up on politics at the moment, like Ray said, he'd given up on politics at the moment. I just everything I can see at the moment is just virtually the same. They've gone back to being virtually the same party again now.
It is same, yeah.
Labour, the only thing Labour is different than the Tories is identity politics. That's the only difference now in the parties. The differences on identity politics. There's nobody going to question the economic status quo, I don't think. I mean, Labour talk the talk, but they never walk the walk. They would have done. They might have done with Corbyn, but it's not going to happen under Starr. He's just going to keep the status quo. They'll always put bankers before workers.
I just look at it like this. This is how I see it.
That's who they work for.
Well, yeah.
Everything what people have been demonstrating about and arguing about doesn't involve money.
No.
They're using everything apart from money. The colour of your skin, your politics.
Your religion.
But not if you wanted to help somebody, you'd help them. You'd help them, black, whatever colour. But there's no money involved here. Bending your knee doesn't cost money.
Oh,
bending your knee doesn't cost money.
I mean, I looked into where it came from, and apparently it came from some US guy who didn't salute the American flag at a march. He went down on his knee as his protest.
Copernic.
But to me, personally,
yeah, that's right. Yeah.
I much preferred the 60s Black Power salute, I suppose, where they put their fist up in the air, like, you know what I mean? Because getting down your knee, I won't get down on my knee for anybody. Not willingly. They'd have to force me down. You know what I mean? So why would I do it? Just for.
I'll tell you what, Jim. You've had this where the arms are up like that. You've had this, and you've had this down on one knee. All symbols of Freemasonry. Taking a knee at the side of the grave of Ira Mabiff. Everything that you're seeing. Everything that you're seeing have got symbology that comes from Freemason. If you find out where that energy goes, if you find out where that energy goes to and what the Freemasons actually worship in their Bible, which is Lucifer, then you've got a hell of a movement going on with a lot of energy being sent in a direction that you can see the mess that it's created.
But all these things, Paul, what you were just talking about, sorry to interrupt you there, but you were speaking earlier about all these people who don't understand this and don't understand other and why they're not. There's a lot of things go on, and there's a lot of fear. First of all, look at that, control and fear. If you had a job, let's suppose you're a doctor. You will not, I'm not saying you wouldn't personally, but how many people would stand up and speak up about something being wrong when your boss has told you this is what we do? Who's going to stand up in front of a camera and say this is nonsense what's going on here? It's nonsense. That takes brave people. When them brave people, look, let's say a prime example. Look at Assange. He had massive support from newspapers, and look what he's exposed and this, that, other. But you know what? Guess what? He's ended up rotting away in jail. Why? Because nobody gives a shit. At the end of the day, people look after themselves, and that's what happens. How many whistleblowers come out in a favourable place? So it takes courage and brave people to do anything, and that's what's happened with this. Nobody will stand up and say something. It takes a lot of guts.
Well, so I'm not critical. Stand up, but if you stand up, you get called an extremist or or selfish, or uncaring.
But to be fair, Jimmy, I know what you're saying, but that's relatively easy to deal with. But when it's your livelihood, when you put all your years into your training to be a doctor and all the studying, and then you go and lose your job, or certainly be pushed out of it, it's going to make you think twice. And if you've got somebody like Epstein, for instance, if you take it higher, oh, look, he had police in his pocket and everything. Because people are afraid.
I don't know if you've caught the interview that Ed Hardy did, Jim, on his show with Dr. Adil. He's just been suspended by the British Medical Association because of what he brought out and his concerns, and he spoke out. An NHS surgeon spoke out about this being a false narrative that is pushing this coronavirus agenda, and like people like that are getting shut down left, right, and centre. I've even corresponded with Judy Mikovits, who I asked her. I said, people are telling me that I can't catch a virus. Can you tell me in layman's terms how I can put it to people how I can't catch a virus? And she put it that if you eat a sandwich and digest it, you will excrete it. She says it's basic biology. She said if you touch a surface, you pick up an infection, a bacterial infection, and you infect your body then responds with an immune response that creates a virus to flush it out of your kidneys. And she said, so you don't catch a virus as your body creates it. And I went, that makes a lot of sense, that. And she says, but that false narrative makes people panic because they don't quite understand it. She was attacked left, right, and centre for it. It's where you think you're getting your points of information from. People, people have stopped me at work and said, I can debunk what you were talking about the other night. On the NHS website, just let me stop you there. Just stop there. This narrative's got to stop. There's a lot of questions. That's all we're left with, boys. We've got so many questions.
I think sometimes, Paul, though, what happens is this. It happens a lot. You could go with 100% proof and show it to somebody. You could show it to somebody. But if they've got a belief, you try and change that belief. I'll tell you now, I couldn't change Jimmy's belief and I can't change yours. I can't, because you will make your own decision. You'll make your own decision. And that's what happens.
Well, I have no problem. I have no issues with that, pal. It's when people have got opinions with no knowledge of the subject. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah, but that's a dangerous
belief.
That's how it works. There's loads of people with dangerous beliefs. I've spent so long working with people for that. That's how it works.
I would say personally that, although I can understand what you're saying, Ray, that people, once you've made an opinion, you'll stick to it no matter what. But I would say, I know I've changed my opinions on things over the years, so I am open to persuasion kind of thing. I'm not stuck in.
Yeah, but
COVID, for example, I was all convinced it was deadly and we weren't taking it serious. And then I saw other people arguing things, and then I've weighed up the pros and cons of what I've seen, and I'm thinking now it's not no one here as deadly as I thought.
Yeah, but listen what you're saying though, Jimmy. Listen what you're saying. You weighed up the pros and cons. You did. You changed your belief. You looked at all the different information and you changed the belief. Me bombarding you, Jimmy, you're talking bollocks. Jimmy, you're talking bollocks.
Well, it depends how you say it. I can see.
Spin on that. Well, yeah, but that's what happens.
If you only attack when you're saying it and you're making it sound defensive, obviously, then you kind of react to that against it, don't you? Say, well,
of course you do. But I know, it sounds big, isn't it? But I've done it for so long, and I'll tell somebody something. I'll be very nice. I'll tell them, and they'll go, I sent somebody some information. I'm not reading that shit. That's it. They've got a belief, and that's it.
Yeah.
That's it. Yeah, but that's how it is.
Yeah,
so eventually, you can't say no. And what you do, because I see it's happening all the time, and I used to do it, and you try to convince people all the time. And I get to a point where you give some information, they go, what a load of shit. I don't carry on because it's pointless. It's pointless.
Well, people
and they can read that, and then they can make their own decision. If they think it's shit, I'm not going to change their mind. But then if they read it from somebody else and somebody else and somebody else, they might go, you know what, it makes a bit of sense. But
well, I think everybody lives in their own kind of little bubble, don't you? I mean,
it's your own perception, isn't it?
We're all guilty.
It's everybody's perception.
In their own kind of bubble. And a lot of people are really prone to not liking their bubble being burst or tampered with. So you try and affect it in any way, they kind of dismiss it or not even listen to it kind of thing. You know what I mean? That's the way
I listen to it.
I mean,
I listen to everybody, yeah.
but the thing is with Facebook and stuff like that, they have algorithms that send you that way. They'll put you in your own little bubble. Like, I'll give you an example. I would go on a site and if I type in something and I find some left-wing video talking about left-wing politics, all the videos that come up on the side then, 90% of them, are left-wing videos leading me further down that path kind of thing. So, oh, he wants to know about this stuff. And the same if I type in something, a right-wing thing, then I get all right-wing things. But I can easily say people get so sucked into the thing, they never see anything from the other side kind of thing to kind of analyse against.
That's right. I thought like you said, Jimmy, if you looked at my mindset to what it was 20 years ago, it's different. Why? Because I've opened my mind and I've listened and I've looked and done all this sort of stuff, done all this work, and that's what happens. But you've got to. Nobody ever came to me, for example. No, I couldn't sell myself to anybody. They had to want it. They've got to want it. So to me, I look at information. If Paul sent me some information, I'd read it and then I'd go, either, yeah, that sounds all right, or I'd go, I don't think so, or whatever. But Paul wouldn't be changing my mind. I'd be looking at his information. But if Paul kept saying to me, yeah, but that's right, Ray, that's right, I'd go, no, it's bollocks. Or some people would. So you've got to be open to information. But I think some people think you can change people's mind, and you can only change it by passing information on. That's it. If you got into some battle.
I also think sometimes you need an outside force to interrupt your bubble to make your mind more open for things, for changing your perceptions on things. I mean, I'll give you an example. Yeah, my worldview was very cocooned. I didn't think about any politics really. I just lived in my own Lee bubble. I went work, went pub, and half of my mates on Saturdays watching football. Didn't think about politics or anything. I lived in a little small town bubble, and then two things happened virtually within a few months that completely changed my thing about how I viewed everything. One was 9/11, and my wife was pregnant at the time. So 9/11 happened, and I thought, whoa, what the fuck's going on here, man? Who are these idiots? Who's Al Qaeda? Well, I'd never even heard Al Qaeda until the day after, but you know what I mean? He was like, what's all this? Who's done this? And then also at the same time, my wife was giving birth to my daughter, and I thought, whoa, it was I've got two stepkids, but that was my first my own kind of with my wife, my first kid I'd give birth to. So I was also bringing a young life into the world at the same time as all this 9/11 was happening. We was going war on terror, on this war on a concept. You know what I mean? Which could mean anything. And it was happening at the same time. And I was starting to go, whoa, I better start paying attention to what's happening in the fucking world. I've just brought a little life into the world. You know, I should at least know what's going on. And I really started looking into stuff. I mean, I always had an interest in history and stuff like that, but I never delved into politics or what was happening around the world.
What it is, Jimmy,
narrative.
Everybody's perception is their world. That's factual to them.
Yeah.
That's how you think. It's fact, because that's your perception. And everybody's got different perceptions.
Their own reality.
So, and not reality, but their own reality.
Yeah,
you might have a different perception to me, and that's how it works. Because I know that happens, and I know now I could go. I remember when Iraq War started. I know new people, really intelligent people with good jobs, and I asked somebody. I said, why do you think we're invading Iraq? And they said because Saddam Hussein's a bad man.
Iraq.
And when
the first thing that I really questioned Iraq War. I mean, the 9/11 conspiracy, I didn't even get into that. I just thought, I took the narrative. Oh, some madmen have run into her towers. You know what I mean? I didn't look into it. No, I've got different views on 9/11. I won't say I'm a mad conspiracy theorist on it. I don't think the towers were brought. I think planes hit the towers kind of thing, and I think it was done by terrorists, but I think then terrorists were allowed to do it. And that's my conspiracy about 9/11. But I didn't even question 9/11 at the time. I just went with the narrative. Yeah, some 19 nutters with box cutters managed to do this massive bomb attack. Yeah, it was Iraq that really opened my eyes because I thought, hold on a minute, we went from out of nowhere. It was helping Al Qaeda. They had bases there. He had a nuclear weapon that he could hit London within 45 minutes. That was the big thing, wasn't it? He could hit us in 45 minutes. I'm thinking, hold on a minute, you don't just suddenly become this mad, maniac with this weapon all of a sudden. I knew for a fact, because I read history, I knew he'd been our friend only a few years before, until 1991 when he invaded Kuwait. He was always our buddy. He was gassing curves, nobody gave a fuck. You know what I mean? So that's when I started.
CIA asset.
2003 was when I started really questioning the system and what was going on.
I was the same, mate. I'll be honest with you, that's when I really started. That's when I started, truth be told. I'm ashamed to say this, but I'm going to say it. I remember in the year 2000, I said to somebody around that time, America should police the world. They're the good guys. They should be looking after everything. All these idiots, we should be... Because that was my perception of reality. That was my perception of reality then. My beliefs have changed. My beliefs change. I don't have really strong beliefs. I consider myself more a researcher than a believer because my beliefs change. If you said to me, Jimmy, have you seen this, Ray? I'd have a look at it. I wouldn't. Yeah, and even if it was the most bizarre thing, I'd still read it because. And if somebody said, "What do you think about this, Ray?" or that, and it could be dead like weird, and I'd go, "I don't know," because I don't know. Some things I do know, and some things I've got strong beliefs about. But there's a lot where I go, I don't know, and I don't. But I wouldn't slag somebody off because how would I know?
That's what
somebody said to me the other day.
If you're all asking questions, then that's where it stands, isn't it? It's just questions.
Somebody was on about a building. I forget which. I don't know. Or Christopher Wren or whatever. I said, did he? And he said, yeah. I said, how do you know? He said, what do you mean? I said, how do you know he built that? Well, it's in history, isn't it? It's in all books. I said, and who wrote books? Seriously, even that. If somebody said to me, I don't know, unless I've witnessed, I'm open-minded. Yeah, probably, but I don't know. Is this true? Is that true? I don't know. If somebody said to you, if that Iraq war had to reach Chilcot inquiry, anybody who'd have been saying Tony Blair and Bush were war criminals, you'd have been slagged off something terrible. Well, if you said Jimmy Savile, you could say it about it. Loads of things. Everything's a conspiracy theory until it's proved fact. Who proves fact when it hits mainstream media? That's it.
Yeah. I mean, like I said about Iraq, it's like, if you at the time, anybody was saying we shouldn't go to war was called, oh, peacenik. Oh, you just love, you're a Saddam lover and all this stuff. They did it with Syria as well. You're an Assad stooge if you didn't want us bombing Syria. We were helping Al Qaeda. We were literally supplying sailors with weapons who were supplying them back to ISIS to fight against Assad. So basically, we were indirectly funding ISIS. But you try and tell people that, and they call you a conspiracy nutter, don't they? It's unbelievable, really, when you think about it. Some of the things.
And like you say, and I think the main thing, and it sounds horrible, but what you said earlier, Jimmy, I'm nearly keep knocking this off all the time. What you said earlier, my hands go everywhere, don't they? What you said earlier about you went to the pub, you watch your football, and I'm not knocking that, but that's what the vast majority of people do.
And that's why I understand them, mate. Because
they don't discuss a lot of this type of stuff, and they live in a little. I'm not knocking it. I don't mean that in a nasty way. I'm just saying that's how it is. That's how life is. And if you went into a pub and started talking, if I did, I don't talk to lads the same as I used to now. If they'd have been going, what's this? What's he on about? Who cares? What are you bothered about? And I'm like, we've just wiped a nation out, whatever.
Well, nobody's bothered as long as it don't interrupt with football. They're not really bothered.
Correct.
A lot of people.
Correct.
And I was the same at one time, if I'm honest.
Yeah. But that's another thing, isn't it? But now you see these recent events. This has come home, so there's a lot more now.
It's affecting them personally.
It's affecting them.
Yeah, bubble's been affected.
Of course. So now it's being questioned, thankfully. I reckon when this first started, I reckon my views were probably about 1%. I mean that. Now, I don't know, 15, 20. It's still a minority, but it's growing massively. But words are no good. We could be talking about this, Paul. We could be talking about this forever, and all they are words, and it doesn't change anything. Somebody has to change something somewhere. Somebody has to do something. Even if everybody's aware.
It is happening, Ray. There's a lot of groups that are working diligently with constitutional arguments and statutory arguments. Like I said, my group, we've got
Facebook shuts them all down.
Facebook
closes them all.
No, but those groups are working in they're not just groups that are talking, they're going into courts. My group, we're waiting for a high court date with council tax now, because all this stuff has got to be challenged. People are paying for stuff in a debt-based economy that they're not liable for. And that the reason this is getting so bad and so quickly out of hand is that people don't understand how this system actually works. And that is where I say, this is new information. Have you read this? I've had people go, no, but that's a load of bollocks. That's not good enough. That's like voting for Labour because my dad did. It's not good enough. People have got to grow up, take some responsibility. But talking like this, you tend to hear things that you can't unhear. And you'll give me a snippet, I'll give you a snippet, and then all of a sudden the dot will go on. And then
don't get me wrong, mate. I didn't mean it like that. I communicated that badly. It's really, really important getting the word out. It's really important getting the word out. But at the end of the day, like you say, you've got to have groups.
Just go in FK 2 minutes. I'll be back in 2 minutes. Just getting a coffee.
Okay.
See you in a minute.
Okay.
Oh, mate. So go on, you were saying, Paul.
I think it's really, really important, Paul, getting words out. Very, very, very important. But at the end of the day, somebody has to convert those words into some form of behavior change or some form of action. Just work. Somebody needs to do something. I don't know who that's going to be. That's what I'm saying. I'm lost. If somebody said to me, what's going to happen here? I'll go, I don't know. Because who's going to do anything?
You can only do your bit, and that bit is whatever it is. What you do, you research, you post people information. They either look at it or they don't, and it either registers or it doesn't. That's all you can do, mate.
That's right. But what I'm saying, at the end of the day, you're right. Everything's spot on, and I totally agree with it, and I'm all for it. Definitely, I do that a lot. But at the end of the day, where we are now, somebody's going somewhere along the line. Something's going to have to happen.
Oh, because something's going to happen, all right.
Well, we just but we're just going to roll with it. And where we're rolling to, where we're going. Somebody's going after. Well, somebody's going after somebody somewhere. I don't know who, and that's my like me. I normally think, well, we could do this, could do that. But somebody said, what's going to happen? Do you think? And I go, I don't know, because who's going to do it? What's going on? Is Che Guevara coming or somebody? I don't know.
Well, when I started this journey, Ray, it was when they turned up and said that they were going to take my house, they were going to do this, that, and the other. So I studied law, and then I realised that they couldn't do this. It was a business disagreement. If you don't have jurisdiction, then, and I asked one question, Ray, at Wigan County Court. I said, can you tell me what jurisdiction the judge stands under today to have authority over me and my property? 4 minutes later, armed police arrived at that court building and ran in and out of every courtroom. I was then summoned into a courtroom with 2 armed police in front of me, 2 behind me, and 1 either side of me for the sale of a property that I did not wish to sell. That's how corrupt they are at Wigan. And that court is run by the council, and Wigan Council is, well, it's beyond corrupt. Let's be fair.
I think, Paul, there are so many corrupt everywhere. There's corruption everywhere, massively. I think it's infiltrated with some really bad people. Nearly everything. Nearly everything. That's what I think. That's my take on it. I don't think everything's what it seems. I think there's very few things. Well, it's been proven all the time, isn't it? I mean, this Epstein case is next one, isn't it? If it ever comes, there'll be massive stuff there, and that should also start opening people. But maybe that's too late. I don't know. It's like
Well,
Yeah.
people are crying and barking at each other over face masks. Well, there's thousands, hundreds of thousands of children going missing out the care system and
Yeah.
being dumped into this. I've interviewed Alan Merritt and Brian Clare, both child sex abuse survivors. John Wedger, who's talking about satanic ritual abuse, and he's talking with survivors of that. These are heavy batters. This is big stuff that nobody talks about.
Let's put it this way. If I'd have gone to my parents and said, listen, Jimmy Savile is making love to dead bodies or whatever, they'd have locked me up for being insane.
Yeah, they would.
Wouldn't they? They'd lock you up for being insane. But a quick question, guys, because it's on my mind. I want to ask you something. Do you think, with all this stuff happening so quickly, do you think there's a sense of panic and they're pushing things through really quickly because people are getting a bit more savvy with what's happening? Do you think they're getting a bit more savvy and they're pushing it through quick?
Yeah, I think the vaccine push is coincided with not the deaths that were promised, you know, because they promised all these hundreds of thousands of deaths that haven't happened, and that's with people not dying of natural causes and colds and COPD and all that, and they've still not been able to.
They're talking about cases now, aren't they? They talk cases now and not deaths. Number of cases.
The thing is, the PCR
it sounds a bit
test,
more dramatic, doesn't it? Sounds a bit more dramatic.
Well, the PCR test, the doctor that developed it said it is useless to test for COVID or corona because it can't differentiate between a live or dead virus. And if you've ever had the flu, you could test positive. If you've had the flu vaccine, you could test positive with no symptoms, and police can have a suspicion of somebody in your house of having it. No test, no symptoms, and they can come in and take you. That's a bad state of affairs.
It's bad. It is bad. But I'm getting the feeling, guys, to me, I think because they're pushing things through so quickly, even a lot of people who wouldn't normally question things are going, what the hell's going on here? And I think they could be dropping a bollock with it because I think they're pushing it through really quickly. I'm just going to put light on, guys, because I can see you can't see me. Not saying that's a bad thing.
Well, I must admit, I kind of agree. You must admit, Paul, now, over the last 12 months, people have started looking into things a lot more, questioning things a lot more. Maybe it's because their own bubbles being affected and they're starting thinking, I don't know, what's going on here. But also, I think things like this Ghislaine Maxwell and Epstein thing coming out, that's been a massive one as well.
Yes, it has.
Because how many people I know now, I would say, if I'm honest, most people I know just think there's a pedo ring.
Yeah.
They don't know the extent. We don't know who's involved. But we know, definitely, there's a big pedo ring with a lot of important people involved in it. And they're all kind of...
So tell me, lads.
My own opinion of it is that I think it's some kind of covert top things by some secret agents like Mossad or the American CIA, something like that, being run by them. And it's an entrapment thing, a really nasty entrapment thing, where they get some rich bastards, get them on an island, get them drunk, get them in bed with all the kiddies, perverts, bring them in a pervert in them all, and then they film it, and then they blackmail them, and then they pay to a club.
Correct.
You can't.
That's what I think. That's what I think. So I want to know from you guys. I'd love to know from you guys. What do you think in next 6 months? What do you actually think? What do you actually see is going to happen in just UK? Let's just look at UK. How do you see things panning out? What do you think is going to happen?
I think it depends on how the public react to things. If they're all willing to tolerate putting masks on, then they might try another thing like banning money and making you use credit cards for everything. You know what I mean? Store cards, you won't be able to use cash anymore. That'll be I think that's one of the first things they'll go for if they bring anything in. Get rid of cash, because they'd love get rid of cash if they get rid of all the cash in hand economy. You know, like people working cash in hand, people who buy things like drugs, or when you get things from people coming abroad like cigarettes in pub, under the counter cigarette trades like that, gets rid of all that. Plus they can track every transaction you make. They basically control the money. They control your money supply, not just theirs. They will control your money supply as well, won't they?
I won't put you both on. I won't put you both on spot then. Now, how far would you go now with non-conformity? Would you wear a mask, Jimmy?
Well, I went shopping the other day, and my daughter, who came with me, she wanted to wear a mask, and she was moaning that I wasn't wearing a mask. So they offered me one at the door, and I put it on while I went in. And then I felt stupid wearing it, so I said, I'm not doing it again. So I went in again the day after because I forgot a couple of items there. I had to go back again. And I thought, I'm not putting a mask on again, so I just walked straight in. And so wear masks anyway.
What would you do? What would you do if this? What would you do if they stopped you and said, "Put a mask on"? What would you do?
No, I wouldn't.
Tell them where to go.
Walk out. I wouldn't get served there.
Okay.
It causes me anxiety. It causes me as alarm and distress to cover my face. I was in a hospital in ambulatory care with a customer, right? And when they were going up to the ward, this healthcare assistant who hadn't worn a mask for an hour and a quarter while I was there did obs. And he said, you're going to have to put a mask on, because he puts his mask on when he did the obs. He says, you'll have to put a mask on. I went, no, I won't be. Oh, they'll make you on the ward. I went, no, they won't. There's going to be an issue if they do. I went up to the ward. They were all wearing masks, all wearing gloves. I never got challenged once. That's normal. That's how it should be, because those masks are absolutely useless, what people are wearing.
But what, Paul, taking that away for a second, purely on, I don't need to really ask this question, but I'm still going to ask it. Are the masks a gimmick? Is it a load of bollocks, basically? You agree they're not for medical reasons? You agree with that?
No.
So therefore, on that principle, they're of no value. So on that
they're absolutely useless.
Right. So on that principle alone, whether you felt uncomfortable or not, even if you felt okay with one on, would you still not wear one? Would you refuse to wear one?
No, 100%. 100%. 100%. When you've spoken to virologists who tell you that this is not airborne, there's no evidence to suggest it has ever been airborne. And if it was, the microns are that small. She likened it to erecting a chain link mesh fence to keep mosquitoes out of your garden.
But would you not also argue the fact now that with the death rate for the last 4 or 5 weeks, which has been lower than what it's been for 5 years, why are we putting masks on now? Anyway,
it's just
because it's control.
Why are we putting masks on now? Let's be honest. I think it's just some kind of
psychological.
Control. We're doing something because if
that's
we weren't
how I see
masks, it should have been done months ago, shouldn't it? Although I do think at the time we probably didn't have any masks, so they were trying to tell you
we didn't. No, we didn't.
You know, we didn't need them because we didn't have them.
But
no, maybe we've bought so many we have to get rid of them, so we're making you use them up.
I know I'm butting another and asking a lot of questions, but I'm dying to find out because I never get a chance to speak to people and stuff like that.
It's all about asking questions, isn't it? If we don't ask questions, then you know how people think. So,
but anyway, why do you not? I know this might sound mad to a lot of people, but if that virus is still about, if it was still about, why would you not want the fit and healthy to get it? Because unless they do that, immunity would never get reached. And you'd be forever trying to hide from a virus. And you can't do that.
My biggest concern is that if they do it for this virus now, what happens when the next heavy flu, a new outbreak of flu,
which they will do.
Are they make us wear masks every couple of years now? Is this the new thing?
Or all the time. Or all the time.
As soon as they mention the new normal, that's me ears prick up and my spider senses start tingling. I think, oh, what's this new normal?
There's nothing normal about it.
No,
there's nothing normal.
There's nothing fucking new about it either. It's long in tooth, this. Anyway, lads, we're coming up to an hour and a half. So we'll have to talk about winding it up now, because I don't think we got much down your list though, Jim. So
sorry, that's me, mate. That's me. I'm sorry.
I'm more than happy.
You don't have me on again, mate. I'll tell you.
What I want to say,
watch this on a regular basis.
What I was going to say is, like, we've got all this COVID thing going on, right? Yeah, and a couple of days ago, the Pentagon announced that they do have a vehicle that is not of this world. Not of this earth, apparently. So basically, they kind of admitted they got a UFO.
The alien invasion's coming next, lads. The alien invasion is next. COVID will go, and the alien invasion's next.
But why is that not headline news? I can't understand it. It's like, to me, that could be one of the biggest things that's ever happened to mankind, that we're being contacted or we know there's beings on another planet somewhere, and yet it's gone so down the radar. It did get reported in a few newspapers, but not many.
They've not reported. They've not reported, Jimmy, because it's nothing new. They're already here, mate. You just don't recognise them.
Well,
they're already here.
Well, if there are aliens, that makes David Icke's theories probably more chance of that being true than there's about there being a god. But you understand what I mean? When people ridicule David Icke, I mean, don't get me wrong, I don't believe in these lizard man theories, but there's probably more chance of his being true than there's about there being one god.
I'll tell you what, mate. It's not like you bring up a fucking subject as like quantum physics and lizard energy at the time of shutting down.
Well, I've been watching a Joe Rogan podcast here. You know Joe Rogan.
Yeah, don't get me going on that. You'll have to put a plaster over my mouth.
And he interviewed a guy about 9 months ago called, I'm looking on my screen, Bob Lazar, his name, this guy.
Yeah.
They've always said he was a conspiracy nutter because he claims that in the mid-80s he got a job working for an American agency, whatever, science agency.
He's the one who got his fingers shot off, isn't he?
I don't know.
His fingers shot off by an alien.
I don't know. But he says he's been claiming for years that he worked on these alien craft, back engineering them, and they've been like trying to back engineer it. And he says, again, he says a bit like, you know, when people talk about the 9/11 conspiracy and they say it could have happened because they can compartmentalise everything. So different people might have been part of the plots even though they don't know it because they only did a bit of it. Well, he says that happens in this lab place where they were working. He said it's all compartmentalised, and his project was just learning the propulsion, trying to suss out how the propulsion works on this machine. He says, but there's all over different departments, groups, studying different things. Like one group was studying how it could be used as a weapon, and another group was studying, like, you know, the life form that could have lived in it and everything. Anyway, and he was saying that this thing they were working on, it creates anti-gravity, basically. He said when he first went in this lab, this bloke, he says, "Oh, he showed this. It's only a little box." He says, "This was kind of one of the power sources for this ship." And he says, when you put your hand towards it, you can't touch it. It forces your hand away like an invisible shield. Like, so obviously the military are looking at it if it can be used for a military like shield for shield things. But he's always been regarded as a conspiracy nutter. But now they're kind of admitting that, yeah, we do have this alien craft that we've been thinking. But and it's gone completely under the radar. I just can't understand how it's not a bigger thing, if I'm honest, if it's true. So what's your views?
What do you want to do? Do you want to do another show in a couple of weeks? See, we'll keep this group going, and I'll post in and see if there's anyone's available. Like I said, there's a few people. Yeah, there's a few people thrown interest in, and you know, it's like I said, if we can start a conversation going within, if you know 12 people, you could know everybody in the world, and it's about just getting that word out. Somebody else will do something always. You know, it's not always Jimmy, it's not always Ray, it's not always me who has to do something, but we've got to get, I mean, you've seen some of them local sites, lads, some of the nonsense that people post. And, you know, I've been attacked in there by people who admittedly don't have any knowledge on the subjects, but they've got opinions, and it clouds the waters because there's something serious that's going on here. And like, I think you were spot on, lads, when you were talking about something's got to happen. Well, you know what, when they come and knock on your front door and say we're taking your house, that's when people have to decide what they're going to do. And you know,
there's something big coming. We're going to have a massive depression in the next 6 months, I think, and I think there's going to be millions losing their jobs, including myself.
There certainly is. I think
that's going to be the big bubble busting for a lot of people, and they're going to start questioning things, and they'll be open. They'll be open for a lot of ideas. Be bombarded with them. My biggest worry is that they'll go to the extremists on either side. You know, the real extremists.
Yeah, me too, mate.
Because
we're not hard to work out and control, are we?
No, not really.
No,
unfortunately. Anyway, cheers for tonight, boys.
Yeah, I've enjoyed it, mate.
thank
We'll
you.
stay in touch. We'll keep this dialogue going, and we'll see where we can go from here. Thanks,
Yeah,
Jim.
thank
Thanks,
you.
Ray.
No,
I'd like
thank
to
you.
thank everybody in the chat room. There's been some good conversations going in there. There's a bit of spamming going on. I don't know what all that was, but there's just post after post that I couldn't understand what some of it was. But I'd like to thank you for taking some of your Sunday night up to listen to three grumpy bastards trying to find out what's going on in this godforsaken world. We need some help, boys and girls. Time to do something.